The John, Anik, and Kenny Florian podcast. John, Anik, and Kenny Florian.
I fucking love them. I can't get enough of them.
Let's hear that Costa next.
Big jab there from Duffy, and Frank Mir is hurt now. Down goes Duffy, out cold. Frank Mir does it again. Rock'em sock'em robots here. Oh my goodness.
Hyperbole.
They're a couple of absolutely self-involved bullshit artists.
Here are your hosts, John, Anik, and Kenny Florian.
Thank y'all for checking back in with us. It is Monday, October 18th, 2021. You have clicked on episode 321 of the Anik and Florian podcast. Hopefully not by mistake, right? Hopefully you didn't click on episode 321 by mistake. What's up, Ken-Flo? How's the fucking back, huh?
Oh my gosh. It's feeling way, way better. Walking more upright as of a couple days ago. Got a chance to drill a little bit jiu-jitsu. So I'm feeling better, man. We're getting there. Thank you for asking.
All right. I think I might train some jiu-jitsu later this week, if you can believe that. For the
I like it.
Years, yeah. It's really because I need to get injured. I have to get out of a future physical challenge, and I know the best way to get injured is to invite Pahumpa over to my house to train some Brazilian jiu-jitsu. So that's what I'm going to do.
There we go.
All right, so a lot to get to. This is a vicious cycle for the UFC, probably the wrong adjective, but live events week after week. I'm leaving for Abu Dhabi in a week. Ken-Flo's also. Where are you going? You're going somewhere in a week, aren't you?
I'm going to your neck of the woods, man. I'm going to South Florida. We got the finals, the championships for PFL coming up. So we'll be over there in Fort Lauderdale, dude.
All right. Ships passing in the night. Is that the cliche, right?
that is our relationship right there now. Yeah.
Essentially. We got one hug at the Residence Inn before the Ryan Hall fight. So, all right. So a lot to get to today. We will recap, albeit briefly, what was sort of a listless UFC Fight Night, Ladd versus Dumont, if that's fair to say. Some other MMA news and notes as well. We will talk about Andrei Arlovsky and Jim Miller and all of that. Ray Longo going to join us imminently off of the top of the show. Look at this guy. Right on the screws, 11 a.m.
Hey.
Raymond Peter Longo. Good morning.
It's what's known as being a professional, as I have to sit in the backstage listening to you guys how you can't hug each other for another couple of months.
Thank you for breaking up that awkwardness, by the way.
Yeah, right. How do you think that seems? I'm like, holy shit, I'm listening to these two guys. Is this actually happening? I got a hug at the Residence. I got this. Wow.
Are you done? Are you done? Can you censor yourself on camera?
No.
Can you center yourself on camera?
No,
Take the shots right out of the shoot.
I need a new setup. I'm not happy.
All right. Yeah. Your comb appeared to be working at least on half your head today, so that's good.
Which half? Because
the other part's just kind of going out.
Oh, it's going
west or east. I don't know where it's going. Yeah.
Hey, I'm just lucky my hair's still growing, so whatever happens.
I know, that's right. That's right. So, well, thanks for joining us off at the top of the show. Ken-Flo doesn't necessarily know this, but we gave Ray the option to join us at 12:30 p.m. Eastern today. By the way, we are scheduled to be joined in 30 minutes by the DAUKAUS brothers, Chris and Kyle, and Ashlee Evans-Smith coming up later in the program as well. But we gave Kenny Ray the option of being off the top of the show or being off the bottom of the show at 12:30 p.m. Eastern, and here he is.
Look at him.
Right off the top.
I'm so happy after this last weekend of going 5-0 on the local circuit.
That's right.
I'm just so happy to be here because I know John. What does he say?
Yeah, my script says Team Sarah Longo 5-0 locally over the weekend. We're not burying the lead.
I mean, John, last time we talked a couple of weeks ago, you were so worried about me getting a goddamn win. I think I'm 10-0 since that time. Don't ever worry.
Hey.
I'm always winning, buddy.
Hey, don't put words in my mouth, motherfucker. Right off the top of the show. So 10-0 since I cut you down in whatever capacity.
Unbelievable.
5-0 for the squad over the weekend.
What a night, man. I mean, Steve, the manager, Lee, the guy's actually now, he's at the point where he's taking pictures. He beat his he's actually beat his record of 0 pictures, which was his record.
Right.
So, he took like 3, and I figured it out. Half of those people thought he was the Korean Zombie. It's actually insane. They're not even taking a picture with Stephen Lee. The guy's actually passed himself off as the Korean Zombie. I think it's crazy.
So anyone who listens to this podcast probably wants a picture with Mr. Lee.
Oh, at this point, trust me.
These are amateur fights, correct? But
yes,
he's an bantamweight worth keeping an eye on. He keeps winning fights.
You know what, man? He's got a great head. He works hard. What the heck is this? The dog's going.
Well, Kenny and I have kids under 4. You don't.
Lucky.
The dog, not a Steve Lee fan.
Yeah. Is it Steve Lee? Is that what you're upset about, buddy? What was I going to say? But no, he's an amateur, but I'll tell you, great head for the game, helps everybody out. I think he's a good student in the game, and he's going to have a bright future.
How old is he?
He is 25, I believe.
All right. Accruing a lot of good experience. And anybody else you want to shout out before we get along to the
Of course, John. I know you love when I shout out the local people.
I do. I mean, you paint me in this corner. You paint me with the brush of a guy who is, not supportive.
I mean, come on, Kenny. No,
John, you got to come up to New York. You got to be careful,
Oh yeah, this is going to be John. John is always welcome. He's a made man the second he sets foot in New York. That's not.
He's a Long Island native, so let's not.
Yeah, he is a Long Island native.
Get out of here with that. I don't need
my best friend Jenny Nadell knocked it out of the park. Vicious knockout. Diana Carruthers finally got a win for her, which is nice. She was so happy. Anthony Delemy, another great performance. Justin Montalvo was at another location being cornered by Dylan Montello, Ali Aquinta, and Aljamain Sterling.
W.
3-0, 3 knockouts, 3 body shots. I mean, with all body shots.
Wow.
He's looking good. You should look at the Instagram. You get a little glimpse of some of the stuff that what happened. I'm afraid I'm going to leave somebody out too, but so we had and Nas, he won his fight.
Yeah. Nas. Right. Released a new album, I believe, over the weekend as well. Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It'll be Nas and Jay-Z. They're going to be appearing in Colorado in a couple of months.
All right. Well, you look good. You look lean. Congrats on the 5-0. Very exciting stuff. And I know the team is very supportive of you and this show. So I wanted to give them
they love this, John. They love this show. They love you and Kenny. And
so everybody loves Ken-Flo.
Even Cody?
Yeah.
Wow.
So you mentioned Kenny Nadell got a knockout, right?
Yeah.
Norma Dumont did not.
Yeah.
Andy Hickey MMA on Twitter, Cody Merrow, our executive producer, sent me this morning. 8 female-led UFC main events in a row that have gone to a decision and featured 0 knockdowns collectively. Ladd Dumont, Rodriguez Dern, Rodriguez Watterson, Holm Aldana, Watterson Hill, I Calvillo, Nunes Spencer, Jacek Watterson. I mean, that's going back to October of 2019. But interesting nonetheless. Any thoughts on the main event, Ray? Did you watch the UFC headliner?
I saw only because I was all over the place this week, and I saw a little bit of it. It looked lackluster to me.
Yeah.
It looked like Dumont looked like she had a really good right hand to me. I didn't really look at the fight. I saw. Right. I was watching on my phone as much as I could, but I don't think Ladd did much, if I'm not mistaken. It was pretty lackluster that way.
Yeah,
so.
Dumont, is probably in line to fight Nunes for the belt at 145 pounds, as wild as that may sound to some. She's got only 1 pro loss, has a pretty good jab. Ken-Flo, Kenny, you got anything for us on the main event before we dive into what seems to be the big narrative coming out of the event, the corner work in that Ladd corner?
No, not too much. I saw Norma kind of being the cleaner striker. I think that's kind of the story of the fight as far as the technical aspects of the fight. She was out jabbing Aspen from the outside, really wasn't allowing her to get to that clinch position very much. And, for Aspen, I think the story was kind of a lack of volume, a lack of inactivity, a lack of pressure, where Norma just was so comfortable throughout that fight for the most part that, she was able to cruise and get the win.
All right, so Ray, I don't know how much you've digested as far as what has been said about Jim West in the corner of Aspen Ladd, who I believe is his girlfriend, by the way, which is a big part of this story, in my opinion. And I'll preface everything that I'm going to say today with the fact that I am just one man, one fan, and if you disagree, hopefully we can move on from that. But I did not watch the fights live. I watched the Boston Red Sox. I went to bed. I woke up with the intention to watch this whole card, and I saw a tweet from Misha Tate when I opened Twitter on Sunday morning that said, "This is abuse. What a douche." And then she went on to write to Jim West directly. Jim would never speak to one of his male fighters the way he has to Aspen. Hate to see it, been there before. So this strikes a chord with Misha, the way Jim West was in the corner of Aspen Ladd, because she obviously had her own issues with her ex-boyfriend, Brian Caraway, and some of the things that she dealt with in her own career. Now, Jim West wrote on Instagram, and I'm trying to lay this out as quickly and efficiently as possible. "Tonight was not our night. It's been our night many, many times at the highest level, but not tonight. I blame myself, though it may not be my fault. It's not up for debate. I take all the blame. Yes, after the first couple rounds, I may have been a little harsh, but I know Aspen, and at that time, technical conversation was not in the cards, being down 3-0. Nonetheless, I own it, and I am sorry, Aspen lad. From the bottom of my heart, I will continue to be better each time. So I think what some of the masses were taking issue with, Kenny, was maybe the tone, you know. I mean, it's not like the General Saif Saud isn't condescending to Damon Jackson too, right? I mean, there's plenty of male coaches, male on male, where the tone is very much condescending, which I thought it was a little bit here. But basically he was saying, you know, what are you doing? Like, please tell me what you're doing, you know? And the aesthetic of Ladd receiving the information was not very good, right? I know she isn't a firecracker mid-round to begin with, but to me, she didn't seem to be receiving it pretty well. Looked to me like she would rather be anywhere in the world other than that corner. And I can understand why Misha and others took issue with the communication between rounds. Your thoughts?
For me, you know, listen, it gets a lot trickier. If we're talking about a coach, I don't have any problem with what he said, to be honest. If you're talking about someone who's in a relationship and they're talking to him that way, I don't know. Would it be as much of a story if that wasn't her boyfriend? I don't know. I don't know any of the specifics of their relationship, right? I'm not going to pretend to. If I'm just viewing it as a coach-fighter relationship, okay, you have to know your fighter and you have to know what is going to motivate them at that certain point, right? What do I do to wake up this fighter, male, female, whatever it is, for them to go out there and perform the way I think they can, right? I've been watching this person in training camp after training camp or year after year. I know what they're capable of doing. I know what the game plan is. What do I do to get this person to do just that? And sometimes, guess what? You can't just be nice to that person. Sometimes you can't just kind of, oh, would you like to do this? Is there anything I can do for you at this moment? Yeah, you got 60 seconds to go in there and say something and motivate your fighter. And sometimes it's not always going to be nice. Like, what do you think we're doing out there? Playing tiddlywinks? We're fighting out there. You know, like, are we supposed to be tiptoeing around situations? Either you want your fighter to win or you don't. And sometimes you have to get right to the point, even if you have to hurt someone's feelings. And, you know, there's tact, and certain fighters are going to respond differently than others. It's up to the coaches to understand their fighter better. But it doesn't always come out perfectly. And I think people are upset about it, you know, specifically Misha, because of her personal experience of what she's dealt with. So, and again, that's a different story. I'm not going to speak to that. A love relationship, right, is totally different. But as far as coach and fighter, I really don't have a problem with it. That fighter was invested. That coach was invested in that fighter, right? He wanted her to win, and was doing his best to try to get her to go out there and get the W and change what she was doing.
Yeah. Listen, Kenny hit on a lot of good points. First off, man, like Kenny said, it's the fight business, and honesty is at the top of the list, right? You're not really – look, I think, you know, just to backtrack a little bit, Misha Tate, I believe, is projecting her own stuff onto this fight, and it's different situations. She might have had a different relationship with Brian Caraway that she's perceiving as this is the same relationship with these two. It's not necessarily the case. You know what I mean? So I look at it like, when I look at a thing like that, I would look at, is his heart in the right spot? Does he really want her to win, or is he making it about himself? I didn't see it. I didn't hear it. If it's about himself, then the guy's a complete douchebag.
I don't think it's about himself.
I don't think it is.
I don't. I think he really thinks he has a champion on his hands who underperformed. But
so based on that, I think the guy was honest and he did the right thing. You know, he's there for her best interest. However that comes out, I don't really give a shit. I don't care. But
she has to be responsive to it, and it has to affect change. And you could argue that there were some encouraging signs later in the fight, you know, when she did clinch and did go for a takedown. Let me just read two more tweets from Misha, if I may. because a lot of people went back and forth at her, and she responded to one of them. He did talk to her like a significant other, you moron. She looked like a browbeaten girl under the thumb of her much older coach and partner. He wasn't motivating. He was tearing her down. How people can't see it blows my mind. And then she went on to say it's abuse because he is her significant other, asking a fighter repeatedly, what the fuck are you doing? And waiting for a reply until all she can do is look at the ground to where her confidence is going. It's one thing to fire a fighter up. It's another to break their spirit. And again, I mean, there are parallels in all walks of life, right? And I've talked about when I'm parenting my daughter, it's like, honey, can you please go brush your teeth? And it's not working. It's like, Riley, can you brush your fucking teeth? And then she's upset, but she goes and brushes her teeth. I don't know, man. Like, I just didn't feel like Aspen Ladd was in a good place mentally, physically, or otherwise. I mean, she like didn't want to be there at all. Like, she didn't really fight like up to her potential at all. She was favored to win this fight. Go ahead, Kenny.
You know, we could let's twist it the other way. Let's say he goes out there and says, "You're doing a great job.
Exactly.
You know, let's stick to the game plan." She goes out there and she gets knocked out, and now his girlfriend is knocked out, and she's hurt potentially irreparably.
Yeah, sure.
And now, because she felt good out there and she was confident, her spirits were high, she now got hurt physically. So again, it's a tricky situation. And I think that, you know, it's one that isn't, you know, so easily answered, but at the same time, we can definitely go the other way and say, hey, you're doing great out there. Keep it up. You know, do this, do that. And she goes out there and gets hurt. So it's like, I don't know, man. I think, I don't know. None of us can know what the relationship is like or how each other respond to each other. And for someone to chime in, even for Misha or whatever, and say, hey, this is wrong. I don't know the dynamic of that relationship. I don't know how
and,
you know.
And if you want to criticize me for doing that, have at it, right? I think Misha, with her wealth of experience watching fights, you know, this is her perception of this situation. And my read on it could be totally wrong. Like, I think Jim West at his core is a good dude and a very good coach and a good MMA mind who has an athlete who he thinks can be champion, and she just wasn't performing at all. But these opportunities are few and far between. And I think Misha and I are looking at an athlete that isn't seemingly responding to this coach, and maybe Aspen will come out and say that we have misread the situation, you know, but Aspen hasn't really said much more other than owning the loss.
And it could just be her, like, you know, it could be an issue with her, you know, like, you know what? I've had a lot of shitty days in the gym. I've had some shitty days on fight nights too, where it doesn't matter what you said. I wasn't going to be there. I wasn't going to be able to do what the hell I wanted to do. And that happens too, whether it's mental, spiritual, physical, whatever. A lot of crap can happen in between camps or before fights. And, you know, it's unfortunate. That's the thing. We don't have the opportunity to come back the next Sunday and perform. It's, you know, every couple months or whatever it is, whatever your fight schedule is. And that one shot is all you got.
You know, listen, man, I think, you know, the other thing is I do think Misha is coming from the right spot also. I think I think it's based on her situation, what she went through. Maybe she's more sensitive to some things, but I think she's trying to highlight something also that, whether it's true or not, I don't know, but I don't think she's doing it in a bad way. She sensed something while she was watching that fight, and she voiced it. But I mean, let's face it. Anybody ever go out with a girl that just got out of a really bad relationship? You know what that's like? Listening to that. They're scorned, man. They're just that shit is rough, John. Trust me. So I think Misha's got to take a step back also and go, let me just make sure I'm not literally projecting my own shit onto this situation. And we'll see what happens. But I'd love to hear from Aspen Ladd, and I'm going to go back and look at that fight just to get a better idea. But my coaching philosophy: you do whatever it takes to get that W. I don't give a shit what it is. I don't care what other people think. I don't care if they think I'm screaming. They think I'm not giving technical. Like, the guy doesn't know technical advice. Guy's been with me 10 years. He knows exactly what to do. You can remind him, but sometimes you got to get up his ass and get him to fucking do it. That's the problem. So whatever
you call your athletes differently based on their disposition?
100%. Everybody's different.
And right.
You know,
like
I know what I do.
Different leadership styles. No, I just think we all respond to different leadership styles, right?
Without a
Like
doubt,
if I was designing a corner for a fight, you know, I respond to the Jim West of the world largely.
Yeah,
you know,
I think there's, you know, it seems at this point there's nothing wrong with. Again, look, we're in a social climate where things are, you can't mention the word fat, you can't do this, you can't do that. And this looks like another case. Now you're not allowed to talk to your fighter in a certain way. You're being condescending. They have a relationship. They know exactly what's going on.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry to cut you out. A great example was the fight with Merab. Like what would have happened if you told Merab he was doing a great job, keep doing what you're doing out there in round 1, and you were being so overly nice to him. Like you went there and motivated him and obviously switched things around, right? I mean,
based on literally, Kenny, based on a conversation I had with him less than 24 hours ago, I wanted to reinforce what we talked about.
Yeah.
And, you know, get him going. And he got technical. He said, do you want me to keep it standing up? Do you want me to take it, no, I want you to fake the takedown to open up the hands to get the takedown again. And he went out and did exactly that. So I don't know if you want to consider that technical, but
for sure.
I know Marlon didn't want to be on the floor. So it's like when you get punched in the balls, right? Anybody even goes to flick you in the balls, you're twitching all over the place, right?
Yeah.
So he don't want to be on the floor. So let's work off of that. Open up the hands because Merab does have some power. And look what he did. Fake right hand, knocked him down, put him down. Everything works out. Thank God, right? So, and there's going to be times it doesn't work out. But that's the fight game, man.
Last thing I'll say, some have alleged, Kenny, that I have a gender bias when I look in these corners. And there may be some truth to that, right? Like I'm trying to be self-reflective as I look at these situations. And, you know, when Ray is lighting up Merab or maybe it's Saif Saud, I mean, there's certainly times. Saif Saud is one of my best friends in MMA, but certainly there are times when he's talking to Damon Jackson most recently. I'm like, dude, would a little tact fucking kill you? You know, like, so it's not that I'm always thinking about it but I just did not at all like the visuals that I was seeing in the Aspen Ladd corner. And I wonder if Jim West at one point had said, Aspen, do you want to be here? Like, do you want to fight? I wonder if she would have given him a response. Yes or no. You know, I just didn't like what I was seeing there. And I'm very curious to see Aspen Ladd's next fight, obviously, because of this whole dynamic and everything else.
And one more thing, John, too, is like again, I got to go back and look at it. I don't want to, my whole basis here is based on what you're telling me.
Sure.
Basically. But I could tell you from what you're telling me, I felt like that a bunch of times in the corner. That's not, you know, that shit happens where you're like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, why do we even bother training?
Yeah. Right.
Like if
you ever corner your wife, though?
What was that?
Did you ever corner your wife, though? It's a little different. It adds, there's a different dynamic at play.
Well, I've cornered her, but I've cornered her like in the bathroom.
Right. Yeah,
you're talking about that type of cornering?
Yeah, right.
Right. I cut it off right there. Go.
Right.
In the closet.
That's good.
Corner her right. Oh, that's a different corner. Sorry about that.
Right. I guess I have cornered my wife. I cut her in the laundry room with her.
Oh, my God.
Right.
One of my wife. How dare you? Is that a little personal on this podcast?
I mean, I guess there's probably a parallel to be drawn for Keith Florian cornering Kenny, right? I think when there's blood or a significant other, there's just a different thing, you know? Like they're holding Keith Florian back. He's trying to get his brother out of the sauna so he doesn't perish, right? And they're like holding Keith back. I mean, is that just an anecdote or did that happen? I don't know.
It probably did happen.
Yeah.
Are you jealous of his relationship with his brother?
Am I jealous of his relationship with Keith? Yeah,
like,
probably. I mean,
I tell you what,
no,
man,
I'm an identical twin, so I think
this romance is thicker than I thought it was. This is crazy.
Thick as thieves, Ray.
Thick as thieves. Love it.
Oh,
what else we got?
All right, my good friend RJ Clifford, whom you may have heard on Sirius XM, wrote on Instagram about Jim Miller. It's one thing for low damage grapplers like a Randy Couture or a Damian Maia to have long careers, but Jim Miller is an all action fighter with dozens of wars to his name and still has 50 fights and scorches newbies. Just a legend. RJ obviously has a way with words, and Jim Miller has 22 UFC wins, Kenny, at 155 pounds. At least 21 of those are at lightweight. I don't even know if I want to have a Hall of Fame conversation or if I want to have like a Jim Miller appreciation conversation, but to deal with the Lyme disease that put his career in jeopardy, and to come out the other side and dust a dude like this at his age and at this stage of his career. All hail New Jersey's Jim Miller here on a Monday. Ken-Flo, what do you got?
His durability is just unbelievable, and proves that it certainly is a superpower. He's been around a long time, and I think it was, one of the broadcasters talking about how his goal was to fight at UFC 100, UFC 200, and UFC 300. I fought BJ Penn at UFC 101, so to put that into context was just like,
right, 100 pay-per-views. I mean,
unbelievable how long he has been fighting, and I agree with RJ the fact that he is very much a fighter's fighter. He's going to try to take you down, but he's also willing to brawl with you, and it's pretty cool to see him go out there and take out some new blood. Now, this guy was very green, right? I mean, he threw a very reckless kick up in the air and just kind of charged Jim Miller and ran into another left hand from Jim that just kind of folded him like fresh laundry. Yeah, it's amazing, man. Jim is as tough as they come. I have so much respect for the dude. He can win in a lot of different ways. He's as tough as they come, like I said. And yeah, just awesome to see him do well, man. A guy from kind of my generation, still in there fighting. Wow.
And we know Longo has a deep-rooted Northeast bias, so I assume you're a Jim Miller supporter.
Very, let's rephrase that, very deep-rooted.
Yeah.
Very. I mean, just 2 words, built tough. I mean, this guy, dude, that's not easy what he's doing. And to me, he is 100% a Hall of Famer just for his consistency and his durability. And how old could he be now? Because I just saw Frankie turned 40, which I'm in shock over.
Yeah.
Frankie Edgar is 40 years old. I mean, those guys fought each other on one of my Ring of Combat shows years ago. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's wild.
40 years old. But this guy, nonstop, I think he's a great guy to look at. If you're never going to become a champion, this is the route you go. It's just
no, absolutely.
Think about it. It's not easy to do that. They didn't get rid of him or whatever. So he's always comes to fight, win or lose, and then he comes back again. He's unbelievable. That's not an easy thing to do because people get hurt. They're out for a year or two. Yeah. He's 22 wins and 50 fights. Good luck, man.
And you know what's crazy, Ray? I'm sitting next to Ken-Flo in Bristol, Connecticut in 2008. We're filming MMA Live, which was a show that we used to do way back when. Wow. And we broke the news on MMA Live. We probably didn't break it, but we offered up the news on MMA Live that Jim Miller and his brother Dan had both signed with the UFC. And here we are 13 years later, and he's going to be a record holder across UFC annals. I mean, Andrei Arlovsky factors into this conversation because they both won on this night, but I think it stands to reason that Jim Miller is going to retire as the UFC's all-time leader in wins and appearances. And it's remarkable. How about Arlovsky at 42, Ray, before we let you go? Huh?
I'll tell you what. Yeah, that definitely another I'll say I was 100% wrong. I thought he was finished after the Anthony Johnson fight, going back that far. You know what I mean? Like another guy that's found a way to just stay in there and win. It's crazy. And he won that fight. I believe that was the right decision. I think I saw that fight.
21 UFC wins for Arlovsky, and he really has to fight you with a game plan, a strategic way. He didn't sort of engage Felipe in the type of brawl that Felipe probably wanted, and incredible. Got to feel good for Arlovsky. That show money's pretty good, Ken-Flo, huh, for Arlovsky?
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
all right, Ray, what else you got before we let you fly? We got the Daukaus brothers out of Philadelphia coming up here in about 3 minutes. So
good. Please tell them I said hello. Two really nice guys. I mean, I got to spend some time with the heavyweight, Chris.
Yeah, really?
What a nice guy. Yeah, the cop from Philly you're talking about.
Yep.
Yeah.
When did you?
Well, he fought on Marab's card. Marab and him fought together.
Oh, right.
Us going somewhere, but got to talk to him a little bit. He's just look. These East Coast guys are built different, Kenny. No, they're just.
I think so.
Whatever's missing on the talent side is just made up 20-fold on the heart side. It's just the way it is. This kid's he's knocking the cover off the ball. This guy.
Yeah.
I wish him the best. But before that, let me just touch up. I got a bunch of people fighting in the Ring of Combat this week too. Dylan Montello's fighting for a title. James Gonzalez defending his title, I believe. Dennis Bazooka, Lauren Braccia. I mean, come on, who else? Oh, Damian Nelson. I love
How you going to forget fucking Damian Nelson?
No. Look for that guy, man. What a great footwork.
Yeah, I know Damian.
Good.
I'm just wondering how you were going to list all those names and forget Damian Nelson is all I'm wondering, you know?
And the Lone Wolf, I believe, Hungry Wolf. Some sort of wolf.
I know Mike Trezano is the Lone Wolf. Is that
yes. Maybe this guy's it's like a pack wolf, I think. I don't know.
Hey,
I'm blocking on his Christian Alcala. Sorry, Christian.
All right.
I think I got everybody.
Christian, you listen to the Anik and Florian podcast. This guy butcher your name. 50,000 listeners.
Hey, listen, I'm really horrible with names, and you could call me anything you want. Really, seriously, I wouldn't care. Just don't call me late for dinner. You know what I mean?
There you go. Hey,
just the non-English, non-Italian names you don't know.
Yeah, Franco Pizzarelli. Those names I get that good.
Hey, I arrive in New York City on Halloween, so I'm going to be there for like 8 nights. So hopefully we can.
Really, Halloween? Come on, man.
Coming straight from Abu Dhabi, you know.
Wow! Thank God I'm not in that bus.
I know. Rub it in, why don't you?
So you're coming from Abu Dhabi to New York?
Straight to New York, yeah. The back-to-back.
What's your bucket list in New York? What do you want to do?
Well, my only bucket list item in New York is to actually go to the U.S. Open, Flushing Meadows.
Oh man, dude,
obviously it's not happening right now. No, I mean I love seeing Broadway shows. I think I would like to see Hamilton at one point. What's the best slice of pizza in New York?
We got to think about that. We got some connections, though. I think we're doing something. I got a nice Italian place. Wear a bulletproof vest. I think that's recommended.
Your daughter's still trick or treat? No, those days have long since passed, huh?
No, definitely not. You know, I tell you, I was at that U.S. Open probably like 7 years in a row. What a beautiful stadium Arthur Ashe is. Beautiful.
That's just under the lights because I grew up just staying up late summer watching Andre Agassi and Pete Sampras and everybody else.
Yeah, those were the years I was going to the to the Open. Yep. Pete Sampras.
Yeah, to the surprise of many, my bucket list sporting event is a nighttime match at the U.S. Open.
Oh man,
wish Sampras was still playing Ken-Flo so I could root against that guy. You know,
here's the man.
All right, Ray. Great day, better evening. We'll talk to you. We'll talk to you on Sunday if you can squeeze us in. We have a special Sunday show next week because
Sunday show.
Well, because we got some of our Ken-Flo's traveling, and I'm going to Abu Dhabi, so we're trying to get it in next Sunday. So since you don't watch the NFL, maybe you can squeeze us in.
I'm raring to go whatever time you want on Sunday, and I'm thinking about we got to do something when you come in.
I would love to. We'll connect off the air, and we'll talk to you in a week. Thank you, my man.
All right, man. Take it easy, guys.
All right.
You too. There he is, the Ray Longo Minute. Every godforsaken Monday here on the Anik and Florian podcast. All right, so we go from New York to Philadelphia. Let's get to the Daukaus boys. All right, so if you don't know, now joining us, a pair of brothers from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, that are really making their presence felt in the UFC. 7th-ranked heavyweight contender Chris Daukaus, middleweight beast Kyle Daukaus. Great to have you with us. So we're going to sort of ping pong back and forth. Kyle, how do we sound? Do we sound okay to you?
All good. Yep.
All right. So we got to start with you. I've been waiting to talk to you since that Kevin Holland fight ended in a no contest not all that long ago. It was actually 16 days ago on October 2nd. We've spent a lot of time, obviously, on it over the last 2 weeks. You know, largely, I think you got kind of hosed, but you've had time to digest it now. What do you have for our audience in terms of that result and how you sort of dealt with the aftermath of it?
I don't know. I think that like a referee, it's kind of like the referee's mistake as far as everything. Just based off of the situation, because he headbutted them. I mean, sorry, the head clash, and then because he let the fight continue so long, and then the result had happened that I had choked him and stuff. I think just him making it so long at the end of the fight that kind of caused the issue on his part, I think. But I mean, the fight happened. It's good that it's happening again, and I'm excited to just get back in there and kind of choke him out again.
Yeah, rematch is agreed to for November 13th, and obviously with heightened anticipation, if not stakes. Did you see Dan Miragliotta walk back up the stairs and audibly say, "Let's just leave it the way it is"? Did you see that, or were you just sort of processing everything that was happening?
No, yeah. When I was in there, I was like fully in there. I was hearing everything that they were saying. Dan said he was going to leave it as it was. So we were like my corner man gave me a thumbs up. My other corner man, Jim, gave me a thumbs up and said like, "Yo, like we're good." But then as soon as I saw Mark Smith throw the yellow light up, I started talking to Chris and pointing at the yellow light and saying like, "It's a replay." And as soon as I saw that was going to go up, I knew that it was going to be either a no contest or some other issue was going to happen.
So, Chris, obviously you're right there. I've since talked to a commissioner about how it all transpired, and he reiterated to me that the power definitely still resides with the referee, even though it appeared in this instance that the review official kind of reigned supreme. I guess the reason I kind of felt like Kyle got screwed is because there's not a lot of guys who can submit Kevin Holland. So if that fight goes back to the stools, right, and then it resumes, then Kyle has a great chance to get a win. But it's like you go out and submit the guy and they take that away. I don't know. I was feeling for your little bro.
Yeah, it definitely sucked, the whole situation. You know, it's really sucks that that the rematch is, you know, obviously overclouded by this. You know, as opposed to the skill set. I mean, if you look at strictly the numbers and how the fight was going before then, Kyle was super dominant in everything. I think Kevin landed 29. I'm sorry, he threw 29 strikes and landed 27 of them. But, you know, the 27 of them were, you know, slaps and foot stomps against the cage. You know, he was extremely dominant in the whole fight. And I think that that's like one of the main things that people are missing about this. They, you know, everyone's saying, oh, he got lucky, or, you know, it was only a matter of time before he got knocked out. Like what part of that fight dictated that narrative? Like he was absolutely dominant every second of that fight.
Yeah. Kyle, you know, it seems like you were in a situation once that they let that fight play out, you really were kind of in a situation where you couldn't win, right? Because everything was going to favor, you know, Holland at that point. Is that the way that you saw that?
In a way, I knew that if the roles were reversed, that it might have stayed the same. Like he would have got the win. Like I'm not saying that. Like I'm not trying to be biased or anything like that or whatnot. But I feel like because he has a number next to his name, because he's a big known guy, that they would have kind of just kept it as it was, and then probably just moved on. But because now he has a number next to his name and people love him, it's an issue, but it's something that we have to deal with.
So moving forward, knowing what you know about Holland now, do you feel like this gave you some good information for November 13th for the rematch, to kind of where you know where you need to take this fight? Yeah,
I know that. Like I felt his strength in the cage. He felt my strength. He knows that I'm a lot stronger than him. And, you know, we were just getting started. We were just getting warmed up. And I know that the fight's not going to be the same. I'm not changing my game plan up or anything like that. I'm going to go in there and do the same thing that I did, 2 weeks ago. And I see the same result. I see me subbing him either in the first or the second.
Well, the one lock of the fucking century was that Kyle was going to take the high road after the fight. That's why I had to come on the airwaves and say to anyone who was listening that you got fucking hosed, because I don't know. I just don't feel, I feel like I got some clarity from the commission insofar as the referee does still wield the power, but I felt like the referee here got persuaded. And again, I just keep coming back to submission offense being a lost art. But my listeners are going to kill me if I hammer it any longer. So Chris, let's get to you for a second. Is it really just 15 months on the roster? Is that right? 15 months roughly since you signed?
Yeah, that's since I signed. Yeah, it was August of 2020. So yeah, it's pretty crazy. You know, Kyle made his debut. I think it was June against Brendan Allen, and then I shortly got the call afterwards. So yeah.
It's just got to be amazing to the family, for both of you guys, but Chris, for you, obviously, to have these type of results so quickly, 4-0 in the UFC with as many knockouts, 3 straight bonuses, and now the main event, obviously, coming up against Derek Lewis on December 18th. So I read an article on UFC.com recently about sort of this fast track relative to your expectations for your career. I mean, you certainly seem ready for prime time, but is it safe to say that things have happened even quicker than you thought they would?
Yeah, this whole my career in the UFC really really took off. I didn't expect it to take off this test or plan on any of this. I'm not taking any steps back. Obviously, this is what we want. So as far as, this whole whirlwind, I'm still ready to wake up and think that this is all a dream as far as, making my debut, running through these people, and then getting a main event spot.
That UFC.com article, Kyle, by the way, they talked about Chris's son as both Cooper and Carter. So I'm trying to do my research. Cooper is your son's name, is that right?
It's his son's name's Cooper. Yeah.
All right. Is there a Carter Daukaus out there that I don't know about?
Not that we know.
I like both names, but all right. So your son, Cooper, how old is Cooper, by the way?
He'll be 3 in January.
So did you guys have any parental or paternal pressure to go into police work, Chris, or did that sort of materialize, naturally?
It was kind of pushed by my dad. He's a sergeant in the SWAT teams here in Philadelphia. So it was always there. It was always a part of the family. I was in college and, the police were hiring. He was always pushing to just come take the test. You could always turn it down, just see how the test goes. I took the test just to kind of get him off my back. I didn't hear anything for a full calendar year. So like I took the test in July of 2011 and I didn't hear anything. Of 2010, and I didn't hear anything until July of 2011. And they called me on like a Friday. They're like, "Hey, you start Monday morning. Go get all your uniforms and everything you need." And I was kind of like, "All right, I guess this is what I'm doing now." And then I've been here ever since. So
I just find it interesting as a young father, and you go all in on MMA, and certainly you have a great career that you can fall back on, but can you even describe for us what it's like to bring bonuses home when you have like a little boy and a family depending on you? It's just got to be a really special thing, I would think.
Nah, yeah, it's really crazy that I've been able to get a single bonus, let alone 3 bonuses, back to back to back like that. So it's really good. Obviously the tax man's got to get paid, so the tax man gets paid,
of course,
and then everything that's left over from the tax man robbed me is getting put in the bank account for my son. So yeah, it's really good. And it's a really good startup for him and whatever he wants to do as far as his life.
Like the only point of comparison for me is I bet on the Kansas City Chiefs to win the Super Bowl a few years ago, and I made like $7,000, right? And so bringing that $7,000 to my wife, it's like, look at this mother, right? There's $7,000 on the. Don't ever, so it's like I can't even imagine to knock out another man and bring $50,000 home. If I knocked out another man and brought my wife $50,000, it's like a hall pass for the rest of my life to do whatever I want,
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, I got to start submitting people. The wife's getting used to the $50,000 bonuses, right. So I can't be doing that.
And Sean Shelby does have a submission bias in terms of the bonuses, so I should tell you guys that. So Kyle, did you weigh 260 coming out of high school?
Yeah, I did.
You did.
Wow.
It's yeah. I hate it when people keep bringing this up. It's not fun.
You look great now, obviously, but I bring it up in the context of your brother, who seems to get smaller and leaner every time we see it.
Yeah.
We're actually at his last fight. We saw Ray Longo and Matt Serra, and Ray Longo came up to me and he was like, "Holy shit!" He was like, "You're a middleweight?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "And you make the cut, no problem." I was like, "Yeah, it's pretty easy." I was really surprised. I don't think I'm that big of a middleweight. And then I see pictures of me and Chris together, and I look like a little bit bigger. And I'm like, "Ooh." He needs to stay big, though. I'm not going to keep getting bigger. No.
So, Chris, hopefully Rich Poehler is not talking to you about 205 pounds. You're staying at heavyweight, correct?
No. As far as I know, and as far as right now in my career, I'm staying at heavyweight. I just killed a ribeye. I just bought a bunch more at Sam's Club, so I'm gonna be grilling them up and eating them. If I make the 205, jump, I'm gonna be super upset, and my wife is probably gonna be super upset during that whole camp. But no, I mean, it's really good to tell myself that I'm eating clean with a buffalo chicken wrap every once in a while. I'm like, I got chicken breasts and sweet potatoes and stuff, and a treat, I'll do a buffalo chicken wrap or something like that. So that's good.
Well, we were all sort of marveling after your last fight about just how calm you both are in combat. But for you, Chris, it's almost like, I think I was saying to Paul Felder, it's like, well, his opponent doesn't have like a bunch of guns and knives that he's hiding. So Chris feels pretty confident, going up against another human weapon, so to speak. But does that serve to help you be calm just because you've been in some crazy spots there in Philly or not?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it definitely plays a factor as far as keeping my nerves. In the streets, when you're a police officer, in certain situations it becomes a life or death situation. So I've been in certain situations where I was okay with that. Fighting in a cage is perfectly fine with me. What really gets my nerves going, honestly, and I've talked about this before, is like public speaking and just like even doing the ceremonial weigh-ins, like with your voice, like hearing your voice, like announcing me and like the crowd going wild, like, cause that was a whole new thing for me. So that really gets like my nerves going and just like, I wanted to fight right down and there. So yeah, that's the main thing that really gets me going. So
that's cool. It's funny because I tell people when I go to like read to a kindergarten class, I get more nervous than like starting a pay-per-view because it's just out of my comfort zone. Right. I got fucking 35-year-olds looking at me like, who's this guy? All right, just a couple more things before we get you fellas out of here. So Randy Brown, who just had a big win a couple weeks ago, so he recently went out to a couple of bigger gyms. I think King's MMA was one of them. Not with the intent to change camps, but really just to see where his level was at relative to Marvin Vettori and Kelvin Gastelum and maybe some other guys who he deemed to be elite. We'll start with you, Kyle. Have you left Philly recently or otherwise to get different looks? And is that something that you even think about?
So first, like 2 years ago, I think it was, before my Contender Series fight, I went up to TriStar just to like kind of get a different feel. I knew a couple of the guys that were up there. I knew Zach Makovsky and Andrew Sanchez, who's now at AKA. So just training with I just got up there just to get some extra work with them, but I didn't intentionally go up there just to see like where my talents meet other guys that are in the division or in my division. No, I mean, the gym that we have here in Philly, we have a bunch of big guys, and we're not really, Chris isn't either. I'm not one to go out there and try to search and have a big ego when I fight or when I train, like going to other gyms and fighting guys that are in my weight class and like some kind of thing. I'm not going out there to try to do all that stuff, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, because Randy, Chris, has always been sort of a homebody and he bleeds New York loud and proud. And I think this was just a huge confidence builder for him to know that he's getting every bit the work he needs back home.
No, yeah. Absolutely. What Kyle was saying, I've never really trained anywhere else. Obviously I know people who live in the surrounding states like Maryland and New Jersey who were bigger guys. So I would obviously travel to their gyms, but it was never like a testing, a test yourself. It was more of, I just need bigger people to work with. Right. And those are where the bigger guys are. Those are where the bigger guys are at. I think that obviously myself and Kyle are both at the elite level in the sport. So there's really no need for us to go anywhere else. I mean, if people want to come train with us and test themselves with us, doors open, shoot me a message and, we got no problem with throwing people down and, letting, opening the door up for some people to come in. So, but I'm super happy with the core group of guys that we have. And my brother is the same way. We have the same group of guys for the past couple fights, and I wouldn't change anyone out for any other, big name in the sport or anything like that besides those guys.
I love it. I love to hear it. East Coast, baby. And if you stay long enough, maybe you pick up a little bit of that Philadelphia accent you hear in Chris.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, a little bit. Everyone loves it. You love it or hate it.
Yeah. No, I like it. I went to Gettysburg College in Pennsylvania, so it brings me back to my college days. All my good friends from Ashby, Pennsylvania, I believe it was. Aston, Pennsylvania. Excuse me. All right, so a couple things on the way out. Kyle, if you could pick one Philadelphia sports team to win a championship next, would it be the Eagles, the Flyers, the Phillies, or the Sixers?
I'm a big Eagles guy, so Eagles. Has to be the Eagles.
Same question. If you could pick one of those four teams to break through next, I mean, Eagles obviously won a Super Bowl not all that long ago. Who would you pick?
Yeah, not too long ago.
I'll just go to the Flyers because the Flyers have been shooting themselves in the foot every season. They draft good and then they trade away for shitty players and then this is the year, and then they just suck. So I really wish the Flyers could get it together.
All right, Kyle, Kevin Holland is number 14 in the world. Part of the reason I was bemoaning the no contest was because you would be ranked for this conversation right now. But do you have another call out planned of another ranked guy if you do get by Kevin Holland on November 13th? You don't have to share the name, but I'm just curious if you're progressively thinking.
I honestly don't think once I do win, I don't think I'm in any position to call anybody out. I have my eyes set on, everybody that's in front of me. There's fights that I like and there's fights with my manager that I like to see if I can try to get them. But yeah, all right, I'll name drop. So the Edmund Shabazian fight.
It's about time, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, right? Edmund Shabazian. I think that would be a good matchup, that fight. I think I play well against both of those guys. But yeah, they're both young guys and I think it's a good fight.
And Chris, last thing before we softly broach the nickname topic. Derek Lewis, December 18th, man. What are your thoughts on him and how does he compare to maybe the heavyweight that would be the toughest matchup for you?
As of right now, he's the toughest matchup, I think. Just on paper. He's got that one knockout power that everyone has to be aware of. No matter what time is going on the fight, it could be 5 seconds in or 5 seconds left. He has that turn a switch off type power. I think he's more dangerous than Francis in the fact that he probably carries more power throughout the whole fight. Francis obviously is like a marauder. He's like a berserker in the beginning of every fight. And then, I just really think that he's obviously the toughest guy that I've fought to date. And I just think I'm better than him everywhere. So we'll see how it goes.
Can't wait to watch it. And then last thing. So largely I love it when fighters don't have a nickname. You guys don't need nicknames, right? But we were we were talking about it recently, I think, on this show after one of your big wins. And I was like, Chris Daukaus, the whole name is 3 syllables. Kyle Daukaus, you could argue is 3 or 4, but for a buffer of the world, he can punch Kyle Daukaus, right? So of course, lo and behold, our executive producer, Cody Merrow, throws out Chris Dark Horse Daukaus and looked like you embraced it a little bit on social media. So I guess we just want to know. Yeah. I'm not paging like the UFC bio researcher Tom Gerbasi, but if we drop a Dark Horse on the broadcast, are you okay with that?
I am okay with that. If you drop it on the broadcast, I'm probably not going to pick it up as my official nickname. I just never really had a nickname. Never really cared for the nicknames. When people when Bruce is announcing you. I'm kind of zoning Bruce out because if I don't zone Bruce out, I'm ready to run through a wall. I'm just ready to go. So I have to keep my nerves in check and just kind of don't pay attention to what he's doing or, saying. So, if he wants to call me the Dark Horse, he can call me the Dark Horse. If not, then it doesn't matter to me.
Well, and you're smart to tune him out because as you guys know, he does have Philadelphia roots. And I told him, I think before Kyle's debut, I was like, don't be afraid to punch the Philadelphia. That's where you're from. So, well, in any event, thank you guys so much for the time. I know it's overdue. Kyle Daukaus fights Kevin Holland November 13th at 185 pounds. And the main event for Chris against Derek Lewis, December 18th, live on ESPN Plus. Fellas, appreciate you. Wish you all the best and look forward to seeing you guys on the road soon.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Good luck, boys.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
There they are, Kyle and Chris Daukaus out of Philadelphia, PA. I don't tell Buffer how to do his job, but I'm like, I'm giving it to the Boston guys. Give it a little, give Chris a little Philadelphia, give it a little extra punch.
I love it, man. Hey, that's awesome. You were able to get him on the podcast. Big fans of those guys. They've been awesome to watch. They just continue getting better, man. And to see 2 brothers fighting at the highest levels of the sport is really cool and a very difficult thing to do. So wish those guys the best, man.
And middleweight is so ruthless. Kyle's really good, and he's had a loss to Brendan Allen and a no contest in there, and he's accrued a lot of high level experience pretty early on, and he's the younger of the brothers. I think he's just 28. But man, it's happened quickly for Chris fighting Derek Lewis in a couple months.
Yeah, man.
very interesting fight. All right, we thank Hector Castro for setting that up with the Daukaus brothers. All right, it is time for the pronunciation of the week as we call on our producer Cody Merrow. So Chris Dark Horse Daukaus, right? You'll have to settle for me because there's no way Buffer's going to get clearance to say that. So good job.
All right. I'm just gonna I'm gonna find my way into the arena. I'll forge the sheet. Like, it'll be fine.
Nice Red Sox hat.
Yeah, it's not bad, right? Well, the fighter you're gonna ask for, John, is Kike Hernandez. He's the best hitter in all of baseball. Right. Any Astros fans listening, I'm sorry. Like, next week you're gonna sing a different tune, but this week, whatever. Ride your high horse. Your ball boy's in the way, trying to get runs out of nowhere. Whatever. We're back in Boston tonight. Or tomorrow night. I don't remember.
So as some of our listeners assuredly know, Carlos Correa, who's the shortstop of the Astros, whom I consider a friend, I guess I should say former friend. I did throw away his player t-shirt after game one.
You got to keep your friends close.
So I love you, Los. And Lance McCullers with Correa does an MMA podcast in the off season, right? So Lance McCullers is the #1 starter pitching wise for the Astros, missing the series with an injury. So that's a break for the Red Sox. That number 43 is not a part of this series, but 1-1, game 3 tonight. Hopefully it goes to the Red Sox. But Cody Merrow, you're here for the pronunciation of the week. This fighter represents the great nation of Argentina. He has lost 3 straight fights in the UFC. Was to face Jamie Pickett earlier this month, but one of Pickett's coaches tested positive for COVID-19. So the fight delayed 2 weeks, and now it shall be done this weekend. Cody Merrow, of whom am I speaking?
I believe you're speaking of Laureano Staropoli.
No, that's not at all how you pronounce the first or last name. Let's hear him, though.
Laureano Staropoli.
This is a tough one, Ken-Flo. Can we hear that once more, CM?
Laureano Staropoli.
Agora mais devagar.
Laureano Staropoli.
Laureano Staropoli.
Laureano Staropoli.
Like Mao. So I'm trying to learn Portuguese, and that's one of the things I'm struggling with. Was the Mao Sol, Mina Lua, Mao. Everything's on the tip, the ow.
Yeah, that's a no for me. I mean,
I'm trying. I'm putting in the work. I
know you're putting in the work.
I'm not out here on Sundays doing Fantasy Zone instead of learning UFC names.
The surname is hard, right? I tell you guys, and Kenny's probably so sick of me on a weekly basis, but I shouldn't need phonetics by the time the fight arrives. But for this surname, Starpoli, I need phonetics, because I still don't even know which.
You think Ray would get that one?
Emphasize,
Laureano Starpoli.
Cody, you're not putting in the work. You're not going to Argentina in between podcasts. If you really cared about,
global pandemic. Since I started working, you got global pandemic. I can't go to Brazil 27 times. Like, I'm trying.
All right. We got one thing left to do. It's UFC Fight Night, Costa versus Vettori. It is coming up this Saturday. Believe it might be an early start time. You got to check your local listings, but it's from the UFC Apex on October 23rd. Paulo Costa, Marvin Vettori in the main event. Let us get to the main event challenge.
It's the main event challenge. Anik.
The time is most definitely now.
Florian.
I finish fights. I'm going to do everything possible to win.
The main event challenge. The John, Anik, and Kenny Florian podcast.
All right, joining us to make picks today, a very special guest, UFC bantamweight, former All-American wrestler at Menlo College. I was digging into the Menlo College wrestling archives, 2008 style this morning. Podcast host and so much more. She is Ashlee Evans-Smith. Great to see you, babe. How are you this morning?
I'm awesome. I'm really excited to be on, guys. Thank you so much for having me.
So what time do you usually wake up? Because we had you waking up at like 8 a.m. Pacific today to come on our show. So,
this is really like my lunchtime because I'm such a grandma. I'm like up at 5:30. I'm in bed by 9:30. Yeah, it's not rebel girl-esque at all. But I'm going through recovery right now. So I'm getting up early and I'm going to my PT. I'm eating good. I'm sleeping like I'm living life like to the T just so I can get back in the cage sooner. So I've been up for a while, guys.
How about that? She's ready to go.
Ashlee, can you talk about the surgery? What exactly did you have done and how's the recovery going? And when can we see you next in the cage?
Oh yeah, Kenny. I stalked your guys' last podcast. I know you're dealing with Simone sciatica back issues yourself. So I bet you're personally invested in this one. I basically had an artificial disc inserted in my C6, C7. So I've got some titanium alloy, plastic metal in there. What happened from so many years of wrestling, the vertebrae were kind of grinding on each other and causing nerve damage all down the left side of my body. So I fought my last fight back in November. I had been dealing with a lot of pain. Long story short, I fought regardless, didn't go my way. And then I got surgery December 14th, like a week later. And it's just been a really long recovery process. Aljo is currently dealing with the same recovery. And when I heard he was going to get back in the cage, like after 4 months, I was like, it's amazing. It's a miracle. And then it didn't happen. And I was like, okay, that seems about right. Because this it hasn't been fun, but I'm on the road to recovery. And I don't want to give you a solid, time frame in case it doesn't go my way. But I'd like to say mid 2022, just ready to go, full fight camp, no injuries, new body parts ready to go.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's exciting.
Good to hear.
And it's interesting because Ray Longo is on our show every week. And anytime we brought up Aljamain Sterling and October 30th, he didn't want to have that noise, right? Because I think internally Ray was thinking like, dude, you're not fighting. Like, this isn't happening, So
yeah, I mean, you want to do everything you can to believe that you can do it. They say sports are 90, 80, whatever % mental. I fully agree. But if you're having that kind of pain, the kind of pain that I was dealing with and continue to struggle with in my recovery, you don't want to defend your title with that. Yeah.
So you fought once in 2018, 19, and 2020. Actually, the last fight was Norma Dumont. So were you watching that main event with any added heightened interest this past weekend?
So I'll be real with you guys. I'm very open. I watched the whole card and, leading up to the main event is just highlight reel of Ashlee Evans-Smith just getting pounded. And I'm like, oh, this is not good for my mental, but I'm like, okay, I would like to transition into more broadcast post-fight career. I got to take it. Just take it. And then, my partner, my boyfriend and I were watching and I'm like, the main event comes on. I'm like, turn this shit off. So I didn't watch the main event. I clicked the next morning. I woke up, and saw that she won, which in a weird way, it's like you want that, right? You want the people that beat you. Your stock goes up. It makes you look a little better, I guess. And this girl is no joke. And now that and I know that personally, and now that she's at featherweight, I feel like she's probably going to be unstoppable. She's not struggling to make that bantamweight weight class. And that really didn't seem to affect her anyway in our fight. So it was nice to wake up and be like, all right, I knew I fought a tough bitch. Oh, sorry.
No, that's all. Please. No, you can cuss away here. So you were 3-0 as a pro when you made your UFC debut in 2014 against Raquel Pennington. I don't remember much about what's going on in my life 7 years ago, but what do you remember about that fight and anything else that was like going on in your life at that time? Green as hell, obviously making your UFC debut.
I think Kenny can agree. Everyone remembers that first call. It's like their first time. They're like, they never forget it. Whether it was good or bad, it's always in there. And, I was 3-0, such a baby. I know I'm a seasoned veteran now, but I really don't feel that way. As you mentioned earlier, I fight about once a year because of whatever reasons, injury, pandemic, other crap. And it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. So I remember every fight really well. It's not like I'm, Andrei Arlovsky or Jim Miller who have a buttload of fights. And I'm like, I can't even remember, whatever. But this fight, I was 3-0. I was, the only real fights I'd had were CFA, which is not a promotion anymore, and one World Series of Fighting fight. And the UFC called me on short notice, 2 weeks. Actually to replace Holly Holm, just like this last weekend. She got injured. They called me. I said, I told my coach, I'm like, I don't know if I feel ready. And my old coach at the time, Adam Lynn from Subfighter MMA, he looked at me and he goes, you don't say no when the UFC calls. And I was like, oh, I guess you're right. So I had to lose 26 pounds in 2 weeks. It was not fun. As a wrestler, I knew I could do it. I was just like, this is not how I want to start my career. But as my coach said, you just don't say no. So took the fight, made the weight, fought Raquel Pennington on 2 weeks notice, who is no joke, obviously. And I was doing pretty good in the first round until she caught me with a very unorthodox submission, the bulldog choke, where it's just kind of like, you really don't see it a lot because it's almost like brute schoolyardish. Like you don't see it in the training room a lot. And honestly, I just never saw it. I didn't defend it. When she locked it in with like 10 seconds left, I literally hear the clack, clack. And I got this. And then I woke up on the mat. And so it was a brutal debut, but like I say with my career and fighting in general, it's high risk, high reward. And I got a 4-fight contract. So I do not regret taking that fight. Right. I think the UFC appreciates people who do them a solid, are always down to fight no matter what. And it worked out. I've won some, I lost some, but that was a memorable fight for me.
Well, I saw you a couple weeks ago at the celebration of life for our late, great makeup artist, Susie Freeton, and just enjoyed talking the fight game with you. So we appreciate you joining us today. We got a few picks to make. Last thing for me before we make picks. In terms of your division, I know you've had time away. But is it like better for you if Amanda Nunes just keeps beating people like Juliana Pena, or do you want this belt change in hands, or do you truly not give a shit? Like, I just am curious because you are one of a handful of bantamweight contenders that hasn't fought her, Amanda. I mean, what are you rooting for?
Well, I always tend to root with my heart as opposed to my head. Even when I make my picks, I really have to turn my heart off and go with my brain. And I did that today because I want to win. I'm going to beat Ken.
Got to beat Ken-Flo, yeah.
But in my heart, I think Amanda is such a great representation of our sport. She's killing it. I love everything she stands for. I know her on a personal level. I think she's a great human. So I want her to just keep reigning.
Sure.
And on another personal level, as far, let's say I get back in the cage, I win 3 in a row. I'm in title contention. Of course, I'm going to crap my pants and fight Amanda Nunes. But if you haven't noticed, I will always step up to the challenge. So, I mean, that's what dreams are made of for me. Come back, go on a winning spree, and then fight the best of the best. You got to beat the best to be the best. So, let Amanda stay there. But make my way up there. I'm going to fight her, and then we'll, have a drink afterwards.
I like that. Well, I was actually thinking about you when Holly Holm fell out, because if you were healthy, potentially rematch Dumas up 10 pounds, just you haven't been able to take advantage of all the weird circumstances of this COVID climate because of your health. But as you know, weird shit's happening like week in and week out. So
and I don't want to sound salty, but in a freaking heartbeat, I would rematch that girl. Just, because no excuses. I just know that I can give a better performance in the future.
Yeah, when you can actually feel the left side of your body. All right, let's make some picks. Yeah. We got 4 of them today. First up at featherweight, and if you don't know how good South Korea's Sungwoo Choi is, the odds makers certainly are paying attention. Seems to have figured it out after starting 0-2 in the UFC. He has now won 3 in a row. As such, he's the -280 betting favorite here against Alex Caceres. Bruce Leroy comes back at +225. Ashlee, what do you think about this one at featherweight, and ultimately who wins it?
I like this matchup a lot. I think the betting odds are on point. Choi is a tall featherweight. He's 6 foot. And when you watch his striking, he knows how to use it. He's crisp. He's tight. He's very technical. I especially watched that fight, his last fight against Julian Erosa, that nasty knockout in the first round. And Erosa himself is a very high level striker. So that puts me on notice. And, but in my heart, like I said before, I'm a little torn because Bruce Leroy, I believe he's a fan favorite. He's always exciting to watch. He's a vegan. I like that.
Yes,
and, he's had so much experience in the featherweight division in the UFC itself. And he's on a 4-fight win streak, which is, I believe, the longest win streak he's ever been on. So it seems like he has this resurgence of his career, which who knows, maybe he's got some new mental game, a new nutritionist, he's on another level now. With that being said, I like Choi for this fight. I think. And do you want me to give you the method?
You don't need to for this fight, but we'll take it if you have a lean.
It's hard to say. I think Choi's going to win this one. I think it's going to be an exciting fight. These guys both have gas tanks. I'm going to say Choi in the third.
All right, Sungwoo Choi. Yeah. Round 3 for Ashlee Evans-Smith. So yeah, Caceres, Kenny, interesting case, right? You and I called a lot of his early fights in the UFC. Has never had more momentum than he has right now, as Ashlee alluded to. 4 straight wins, 25th UFC appearance. Guy's been there and done that. Tough spot, tough fighter. He draws this weekend. Your thoughts, Flo?
Well, right now my thoughts are that I'm very upset that you had Ashlee on the podcast, because clearly she's smart and she's done her homework. So I'm not feeling good about these picks. But yeah, no, listen, I agree with her absolutely on Choi. I think that it's most likely going to come down to striking. I think Caceres, he can be tricky on the ground, but I don't think he has the takedowns or the size to really impose that part of his game on Choi. So I think it's probably going to stay on the feet. And Caceres will kind of use that karate style, but I think Choi's power, his ability to put together cleaner combinations, I think will be the difference here. So I like Choi here as well.
Only man to beat Caceres at all recently was Ice Cream Crone Gracie. I actually went down a little Crone Gracie rabbit hole this morning. He moved to Montana, Ken-Flo, out of California, yes. Ashlee, by the way. Everybody's leaving California. Ashlee Evans-Smith is not leaving California. Maybe.
Not yet.
Maybe. Yeah.
But no, Crone Gracie hasn't fought since the Cub Swanson fight. And I'm a big fan of his, but he moved to Montana. Everybody getting out of Dutch. All right. Next up, this is in Ashlee's division, by the way. Jessica Rose Clark, -135. Jocelyn Edwards, +115. So Clark tore her ACL in her last win last September against Sarah Alpar, back for the first time here in more than a year. Edwards on the other side making her 3rd start in the UFC, all of them in 2021. I believe she trains under Victor Davila in California, if I'm not mistaken. Ashlee, what do you think about this one in your division, babe?
Obviously, eyeballs are always on flyweight and bantamweight. I've bounced around from those weight classes. Let's just say when I come back, it's going to be bantamweight. Okay. I'm getting too old for that featherweight division. But I like this fight a lot. Jocelyn, I've been watching her since she did make her debut, been paying extra close attention to the fights because of the pandemic. So thank you, COVID, I guess. I thought she looked real sharp in her debut. But when I watched her fight against Rosa, I just saw her get controlled with the wrestling. I saw her not check kicks a lot. And, matching her up against Jess, who, regardless of her coming off that ACL injury and, a year layoff, maybe she's got some ring rust. I don't believe in that, but it's dependent on the fighter. I just see Jess, if she controls this fight with wrestling and throws a lot of heavy leg kicks, this is her fight for sure. I picked Jessica Rose Clark.
Yeah, no, it's a good breakdown, and I think you picked up on a lot of things that I did on the Edwards film. Kenny, what do you think about this one? Short price on Jessica Rose Clark, the favorite.
Yeah, it's hard to see what kind of fighter Jocelyn Edwards is. It seemed like her debut and her second fight were 2 different performances, and of course 2 different opponents, right? But I don't know. I can't tell if she was just off or if that's a real weakness in her game. But I think Edwards probably has the advantage on the ground. I think her ground and pound, her submission game might be a little bit better than Jessica's. But Jessica's going to be the cleaner striker here. I think the way that she's able to strike from the outside with those leg kicks that Ashlee was talking about could really slow her down and kind of be the beginning of the end for Edwards. So I think if she's able to pick her apart from the outside, slow her down, maybe attack the body and stay out of that clinch or be efficient from the clinch, I think this is Jessica's fight as well. So got to go with Jessica Clark.
Gotta root for the fellow hyphen too, Ashlee, right? I mean, I know hers is in her first name, right? Man,
yeah.
All right, co-main event at lightweight. We will need the round and the method of victory here. Grant Dawson, 3-1 favorite, -305 against Ricky Glenn, who is +240. So Dawson had a fight on the books, as Ken-Flo well knows, against Diego Fajeda that was to happen earlier this month. Fajeda got hurt, I believe. So Dawson instead draws Ricky Glenn a few weeks later. And Grant Dawson trying to move to 6-0 here in the UFC. Ashlee, what do you think about the co-main event?
I think this is a strong statement with Costa and Vettori being the main event, but I think this is going to be fight of the night. I think
I do too.
Dawson is a young powerhouse, and like you said, he's undefeated. He struggled with some weight class issues, and if you have ever bounced around from weight class to weight class, you just don't know. You want to find the right fit where you're lean and fast and powerful, and I think he's finding his home at lightweight, and I think it's going to be a really good fight for him. Rick Glenn, he's extremely experienced. He's one of those guys. I didn't say this about Jessica Rose Clark, but she doesn't fight too often. Myself being one of those, a similar type of fighter, right? Once a year type thing. But when they show up, man, they show up. And Rick Glenn shows up. He's got plenty of experience. So it's like, oh, a younger, powerful guy, guy who's been doing it longer with more experience. I take Dawson, and I think that it's going to be. I expect a finish. I expect a 3rd round choke. That's what I go.
All right, 3rd round submission for Grant Dawson. Nicely done, Ashlee. And yeah, Kenny, no doubt Grant Dawson has found his right weight class, and thankfully he is finding it early in his career. You think about guys like Dustin Poirier and Dan Hooker did all this work at featherweight. I digress. But Ricky Glenn on the other side, Kenny, he had like a 3-year layoff, but came back with that huge knockout of Joaquim Silva in June. Still a big price here, though. Ricky Glenn plus 240. What do you think about his chances here against Grant Dawson?
Listen, I think Rick Glenn has some good skills. I think he's well-rounded. He's dangerous. The only thing, he's a little inconsistent. Sometimes we see some good performances, some okay performances here, sometimes make some mental errors during the fight. Whereas Grant Dawson, probably a little bit more consistent. I was really impressed with his comeback win over Leo Santos as well. I thought that showed a lot about his heart and his willingness to win. And I think he's got a lot of potential. I think he's learning from each and every fight. So I like Grant Dawson here as well. Let's go with a 3rd round TKO for Dawson.
3rd round TKO, the pick to click for Ken-Flo there on Grant Dawson. All right, main event, big fight at 185 pounds. Marvin Vettori right now on DraftKings Sportsbook, the minus 130 betting favorite. Paulo Costa can be had at plus 110. All right, so these two men have combined, to face the champ Israel Adesanya 3 times. They're 0-3. For Costa, that is his only pro loss, Ashlee, and that was his last fight all the way back in September of last year at UFC 253. Costa, Vettori under the lights this weekend. Who wins the main event?
Yeah, I believe both these guys, Vettori and Costa, Adesanya was their last fight, if I'm correct. And, this one is extremely tough, right? Because you've got just 2 specimens, and I'm nitpicking now. Like you have to nitpick when it gets to this level. And I'm really, Vettori's never been finished. They both fought Adesanya. I think the difference is the fact that Adesanya style bender really broke down Costa mentally. He kind of, destroyed him when they fought. And Vettori just seems to have a stronger mental game. And at this level, it's like I said, I'm nitpicking, but I think the mental aspect's going to be the final straw for this fight, the deciding factor. And so I give it to Vettori. And man, to have to pick a specific, I'm going to say decision for Vettori. Yeah, but we're really nitpicking, man. This is going to be a great fight.
Well, no, and Vegas obviously has this close on paper. And for Marvin Vettori, man, he wants this so badly, Kenny. He's racked up a lot of experience, right? He's fought 75 minutes in that octagon since we last saw Paulo Costa. The main event wins over Jack Hermanson and Kevin Holland, and obviously the 25 minutes with Adesanya that did not go his way. I felt like at times in Vettori's last fight, he was a little bit delusional with respect as to what was actually happening in that fight. And then afterwards kind of felt like maybe he had done enough. I think there are more unknowns on the Paulo Costa side, certainly as far as what his last year has held. Kenny, what do you have for us on the main event? I have no idea who wins it, and I'm glad I don't have to make a pick.
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate, man. Ashlee was calling these guys physical specimens. That's why they remind me a lot about myself. You look at their body types, and I can really see. No, but listen, these guys definitely are physically very powerful guys, very explosive. I think for Vettori, though, the path is pretty clear. He's got to look for a takedown. He's got to slow Paulo Costa down, get him on his back, and get rid of, a lot of those exchanges in tight. I think that's where Paulo Costa can really hurt you. He's extremely fast. And for a guy who is as physically big, who carries as much muscle, a lot of times you expect him, to slow down. And when Paulo is in tremendous shape, he doesn't really slow down. He could still have a lot of pop in his punches. So I don't know. I think Vettori's got to be very careful here. He's got to set up his takedowns properly. He's got to get respect from Paulo Costa with his hands, but he can't stay in the pocket for too long. So really fascinated by what the approach is going to be by both guys here. I think Vettori obviously has been more active than Paulo Costa has been recently. But I do think Paulo Costa has the skills to get it done. I like Paulo Costa here. I think he'll find a way to stop those takedowns and be more effective and slow Vettori down and then kind of pounce a little bit later in the fight. When does that happen? It's between the third and fourth round. Let's go with round 3. Paulo Costa again here by TKO.
All right, Ken-Flo likes Costa by TKO. And I know for the Paulo Costa fans and his coaches, they felt shortchanged by that last performance, to say the least. So a big opportunity for him to not right that wrong, but to sort of right the ship this weekend against Marvin Vettori. All right, more from Ashlee Evans-Smith on social media. You can find her at Ashlee MMA, and her podcast is at Sex and Violence with Rebel Girl. Ken-Flo's got to come on the show. I'm a little timid, about the format. No, I know we talked. I'm going to come on there at some point in time. I just need to accrue a little bit more sexual experience before I come on. I think Kenny would be a great guest. So, hey, thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for lifting me up over the last few weeks, obviously with Susie, and we wish you all the best with your podcast and with coming back, and look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you guys so much. Have a great day. Talk to you soon.
Bye, Ashlee.
She is Ashlee Evans-Smith with us for the main event challenge this week here on the Anik and Florian podcast. So when we had that celebration of life for Susie, Ashlee really was lifting me up, and she was telling me about this podcast that she has, right? Yeah. And some of my broadcasting colleagues, I think Alan Joban and Laura Sanko, have been on the program.
Okay.
But there's certain things we obviously can't talk about because of what we do for a living, right? I can tell our intimate audience here on the Anik and Florian podcast, you notice I take chances on these airwaves that I certainly wouldn't take on a UFC telecast. And there's a lot that I can't even say here because of the nature of what we do for a living. But rest assured, when I retire, oh my God, when I retire, it's all.
When we're 80 years old, when we're 80 doing this podcast, dude, it's going
to be. We're asking people to hit the like button when we're 80. We're just trying to retire. Can you hit the fucking like button, please?
Well, look, John, no offense. I like you, but you got to wait until after a couple episodes after Alan Joban, right? Do yourself some favors.
Yeah, seriously.
That's a good looking man.
But again, beauty's in the eye of the beholder, right? It's I think.
In the eye of modeling agencies, he's much better looking than either of us. So,
I haven't solicited modeling work. I have an identical twin.
That's
right?
true.
It's let me solicit the modeling.
He is an attractive twin. I'll give you
that modeling services aren't interested. Unbelievable. This guy banging on me. All right. Thank you to our guests, Ashlee Evans-Smith. By the way, how about Bitcoin, huh?
Dude, let's go. Let's go to the moon, John.
Yeah. And all right. So it's over 62,000 right now. I guess what I grapple with, my average purchase price on Robinhood, 42,000, my average purchase price on Gemini, 38,000, but that doesn't really matter. Right. It's why am I hyper-focused looking at it at 59? What does it matter?
Exactly. Hold long term. Think of it, 4 or 5 year hold, man. We'll be in a completely different conversation. WAGMI, WAG me. We're all gonna make it. Just hold on. We're all gonna make it.
And, you know, Ken-Flo obviously has to keep certain things close to the vest. But I got to think, if we go back to our conversation earlier about me hitting $7,000 on the Chiefs or Daukaus coming home to his wife, it's like, oh, hey, honey, I just won another $50,000 bonus for knocking another man unconscious. So I'm going to go to the bar tonight and you have Cooper. Okay, honey? You know? But I'd imagine, Ken-Flo, at some point you've had a Bitcoin conversation with Clark. That's like, hey, honey, I was onto something, was I not? Right?
Absolutely.
Any chest puffing? There has to have been some chest puffing with the wife on Bitcoin, a little bit. Right?
No question about it. Because you know, like when I'm talking to her in the beginning, you know, years ago about Bitcoin, she's just like, "What? What are you doing? What you're gonna put how much money in imaginary money? What are you doing? You're just throwing it away? Right. Okay, yeah, great. So now I'm like, remember when I told you that it would be something, and now we're here. So.
And I have another dear friend and colleague who sold his. And so he has the reciprocal conversation with his wife, who doesn't let a day go by without reminding him how many millions he decided to sell for like $60,000 back in the day. All right. Thank you to our guests, Ashlee Evans-Smith, Chris Daukaus, Kyle Daukaus, Chris the Dark Horse Daukaus. Ray Longo, that feels like a long time ago. Next week's show's going to be out early, folks, right, Cody? Because it is wheels up to Abu Dhabi and South Florida. We got a big show coming up in advance of UFC 267 and a special announcement on next week's 322nd episode of the Anik and Florian podcast. So stay tuned for that. AnikFlorianPodcast.com is live for all of your merchandise needs. Millions.co for the One More Sleep stuff. And don't forget Ken-Flo's YouTube channel. Bulldog chokes, clock chokes, whatever needs to be explained will be explained there. Thank you all for indulging us. Thanks to our executive producer, Cody Merrow. Until next week, enjoy the fights. Don't text and drive. Paulo Costa's back in your life this weekend on ESPN+. We'll see you next Monday. Yo, later.